Bill was always the guiding light for teaching people how to.
After we had the opportunity to acquire a threatened example of the work of Louis B. Easton, and through the development of our preservation fund associated with that acquisition, it seemed to me to be a perfect opportunity or venue, that term we hear so often now, to have members come in and present to them a whole range of information from various specialized building trades to specialized contractors who I invited to come and give presentations. We continued to do that consistently for at least 15 years or more after that, and several different formats that we employed over the time, but it was really my intention to give people, and again principally members and whoever else was interested and heard about it, the empowerment either to undertake their own hands-on restoration work or to be able to feel comfortable in talking to contractors, subcontractors, tradespeople of various kinds, so that they were not going to be bamboozled by somebody who didn't really know what they were projecting to know, and that the homeowners needed to know in order to make a informed decision about retaining somebody to do this work for them. So it was very popular and had a long run. The restoration workshops ended up being folded into the Craftsman Weekend. And so it's been up and down in terms of how much focus we've actually spent on that type of programming during the run of the last 10 years or so of Craftsman Weekend.
I think in the early years they were really crucial because so many, particularly young couples, would come to us and say, okay, I live in this great craftsman house, I understand how important it is, but I don't understand what to do with my foundation. And so I remember one of our sessions was how to read your foundation so that people would understand the real basics. I mean, these were really hands-on classes.
Yeah,
and the craftsmen who came were all local, and they didn't charge, at least I don't think
not
ever.
at all.
They
None
came
of them ever
and
charged.
donated their time in explaining, how to read your roof, when you need a roof, how it should be rebuilt if it was needed, et cetera, et cetera. And I think that was a real service we provided, but it really came out of the membership request.
Yeah,
because
and
so
I
many
would
people wanted to restore their homes.
I learned how to strip paint with a heat gun from Bill Ellinger, and I think Pasadena Heritage was probably responsible for a while for selling more heat guns in Southern California than any other entity. And it's interesting now to think that younger generations of people can get all this information on videos, on television, on streaming online, whatever. But when we were doing that, there was no source. There was no this old house on television. There was no way to get this information. And so it was a service that was really unique and essential to what we were trying to do.
Along with restoration workshops, we also had all kinds of fun parties in crazy places. And the idea was, again, to attract as many people as we could to buildings that maybe they wouldn't otherwise see or visit. So you tell us about some of the fun places that you arranged for these parties to happen.
That was always an adventure because we did the bridge party in the early years every other year. So on the alternate years, we had to come up with some sort of a fundraiser. And some that come to mind were a speakeasy party in the old Royal Laundry when it was vacant, and we hung sheets and towels and old underwear from clotheslines all around the place. And people showed up in their raccoon coats and with their violin cases. And I remember we served vegetable soup and cornbread as our lavish food for the night, but we had great music and tons of fun, and people played cards, and it was really
And
terrific.
lots of wine and beer.
And always lots of wine and beer. We had a party in the Braley building when it was under construction, so that was our hard hat party.
Scientology building now.
Yes, we had a party in the Raymond Theater where we showed clips of old movies, and the theater was in pretty dire disrepair and was being used as a heavy metal concert venue. And we were quite a different audience, but we did have a great time in the Raymond Theater.
And the
And-
powerhouse.
In the mortuary.
Yes, the Turner and Stevens Mortuary. We had an Edgar Allan Poe party. And then we did, with the local AIA chapter, 2 different costume parties in the fall in the old steam plant. And it amuses me no end now that you're not allowed to go in there today because of the asbestos issues and the lead paint abatement and whatever. We didn't even think about those things. If we found a great venue and somebody would let us in, we would just have a party. And the architects, we did all the work. I'm sorry, architects, but we did all the work to organize the party. But the architects would all come in the most fabulous costumes because they were all into creating themselves as all these characters. So they added all the color and character of the party, but we did all the organizing. So we had a lot of fun doing wacky parties. I kind of miss those, actually.
Yeah, I'm a bit nostalgic, sort of hearing that.